Alright, this is going to be one of those videos where I talk about a pretty obscure subject that I'm sure a lot of you don't have any interest in, but stick with me here, I promise it'll be fun. This has got to be my favorite time of year. In the world of League of Legends, we have the World Finals getting into full swing, but we simultaneously also have many sports leagues in the world starting up, including the NFL. League of Legends is hands down my favorite esport, and American football is almost certainly my favorite traditional sport. A lot of the time I feel kind of saddened by this because I can never really talk about both of them to anyone. All my league friends are a bunch of nerds who don't like real sports, and the guys that I know that follow the NFL either don't really play or don't really care about pro league. But I don't think this is by coincidence that these are the two favorite competitive events I enjoy watching. These are two sports that have a whole lot in common in how they're structured and how they're played, which is what I want to show you guys a little bit of today. Let's start this off talking about league, more specifically what goes into a pro play from a spectator's point of view. Well, we're going to have to oversimplify a lot here, but if you boil it down in competitive League of Legends, there's three main things to look for in how a team performs when making a play: preparation, execution, and individual performance. Just as a quick example, look at this Worlds match between Lion Gaming and Team WE from Play-In Groups. Here, WE had their jungle Ezreal, played by Condi, fail an invade against Kha'Zix and give up first blood. This obviously sucks for WE, but they decide to respond by making a play where jungle Ezreal now rushes to get level 3 off his blue buff and then gank bot lane. Because Kha'Zix is still clearing the top half of his jungle, it's super unlikely that he's going to be on the bot half of the map anytime soon, so Condi can safely go for a very aggressive path, making sure that he avoids all wards to gank bot lane and pick up an early kill. In this play, WE had to do these three things: prepare, execute, and individuals had to perform. They had to communicate to each other, preparing the setup, talking about what kind of call they want to make and planning it out quickly over comms. They had to execute, meaning that they would have to respond to the various defensive options that Lion Gaming had and adjust their play accordingly, like maybe if this was warded, if this brush was warded and they saw them coming and backed off, or if anything crazy popped up, like Galio almost had a TP gank to respond to this, but he channels it a little bit too late. But finally, each individual also has to perform here. Bot had to not push the wave or get taken too low. Condi had to jungle quickly and pick the best ganking route, and everyone just had to use their abilities in the fight, land skill shots, not die, and all that jazz. This sort of planned setup and execution with an emphasis on a bunch of individual specialized players coming together to perform plays is my favorite thing to see in sports. This is a really basic play since Lion wasn't prepared for it at all and wasn't warding properly, but when you start getting to the best teams in the world up against each other, then this kind of setup allows for all sorts of crazy stuff, crazy strategies, all sorts of mind games, incredible pressure put on individuals to not mess up their part of the plan, and this just so happens to be exactly what the NFL is about. Now let's break down an NFL play for you guys and show you just what I mean, but a quick overview for those of you completely unfamiliar with American football. The goal of this sport is to move the ball down the field to the end zone. You get the ball in the end zone, you score some points. The team with possession of the ball, which is the offense, they can do that one of two ways. They can either hand the ball off to a running specialist called the running back, who's quick, agile, and will try and run the ball down the field as his team blocks for him, or they can give the ball to a throwing specialist, the quarterback, who will throw the ball to a player who's run downfield. The defending team will have all sorts of different formations and schemes to try and neutralize their opponent's best players and be prepared for whatever the most likely play call is by the offense. The offense only has 3 or 4 plays to try and move the ball at least 10 yards down the field, but if the defense stops them before they do that, then the defense's team will get possession, so defense is really important, but anyway, I digress. The play we're going to be looking at was from the game played in London this past week between the Baltimore Ravens and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars, if you don't know, are heavy favorites to win the Super Bowl this year, led by their future Hall of Fame quarterback Blake Bortles, but this was still supposed to be a very close matchup since the Ravens had a very good defense going into this game where they shut out the first team they played all year, and they had just as dominating of a performance in Game 2. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into this play, setting everything up for you, remembering preparation, execution, and individual performance. Here, the Jaguars are getting close to the end zone and are threatening to score. On this particular play, they're setting up like they're going to run the ball, and you can tell this looks like a running play because of all the extra players clumped up together here. In addition to the 5 offensive linemen that you have that always serve as pure blockers on every single play, they brought in 2 extra players on the edge over here who are called tight ends, ends, players who sometimes run out and catch the ball as a receiver, but they're also utilized as blockers just as often. Just from this formation, it's looking like this is going to be a run play to the right with the extra 2 tight ends on the right, as well as this wide receiver over here who's standing very close as if he wants to serve as a blocker as well. The Ravens are preparing for a run though. As you can see, their players are shifting over to make sure they're ready for a run, as well as this player who's called a safety, who's someone that normally plays way back up here. He's drifted down to get ready to stop a run as well. But then when the play starts, things get a little bit crazy. The line shifts to the right here as if it is a run to the right, but rather than pitching the ball out, instead it's looking like it's going to be a run play down the middle or towards the left. Here you can see that outer tight end is cutting back and running around as if he's going to serve as a lead blocker for the running back, and because the Jaguars lined up everyone on the right, that forced the Ravens to do the same, and now there's a whole lot of gaps and open space in the middle and left of the play. However, the Ravens seem pretty ready for this. They're a solid defense. You can see these linebackers did shift right at first, but they're quick to respond to the change, and after they see a run that looks like it's coming forward or to the left, they start running forward themselves to plug up these running lanes where the runner, he shouldn't really be able to get too far. However, the Jags pulled another level of trickery here. They didn't actually give the ball to the running back, they only faked it, and now it looks like they're handing it off to this wide receiver who's running around on a play that's called a sweep, where he's also a very fast and agile player who, if he gets going, he can run pretty quickly and is able to make a pretty decent gain. With all those shifts to the right and with those linebackers running forward to plug up the running lanes, look how open this part of the field is. If this player, Marquise Lee, can get around the edge, then he can make a huge gain and possibly score a touchdown if he can just get this safety to miss his tackle. This might be a perfect play call with 2 exciting layers of trickery. But yet again, the Ravens were very prepared. This player, who's the outside linebacker, a star player for the Ravens called Terrell Suggs, he's blown past any would-be blockers, and that tight end who was meant to wrap around and stop him was not quick enough. He's now in the backfield and can tackle our wide receiver friend here for a big loss. Even if he misses, you already have the second line of defense rushing over to make sure they're ready to knock him down and prevent any big gain. Again, great defense by the Ravens. But again, there was a third layer of trickery here. This genius quarterback, Blake Bortles, in his infinite wisdom, didn't give the ball to his wide receiver. He held onto it and is now looking to throw. Remember how I said earlier that tight ends can sometimes run down the field and play the job of a receiver? Well, that other tight end, Mercedes Lewis, pretended to block, got away from his block, and is now bolting downfield with the defensive backs running towards the left to get ready for that run. This is going to leave Lewis wide open for a beautiful touchdown from Blake Bortles, who delivers an immaculate pass like he always does. Now let's rewind and do this again. Remember, preparation, execution, and individual performance. On the preparation front, this was a great play call by Nathaniel Hackett, who is the Jaguars offensive coordinator who made this call. The only way that this play works is if this safety is drifting down pre-snap, leaving this area of the field wide open. It could maybe still work if they can get him to shift left on the fake sweep, but if you're familiar with how the Ravens scheme their defense, they love pulling one safety down for what's called a cover one man defense, and they do it all the time. This was also amazing execution by every player on the Jaguars offense, where they were ready to change things before the snap if this option wasn't there. This is one of the things that makes Blake Bortles one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. As he's going up to survey the field, the very first thing you see him do is look at that safety. When he sees him come down, he knows this play's gonna work. If he didn't come down, then Blake could change the play and execute differently based off how his opponents were defending. But finally, you have individual play. Like in League of Legends, where when the game starts off, you have a bunch of one-on-one and two-on-two matchups in laning phase, you see a very similar thing happen here. On the line, you have a bunch of different one-on-one mini sumo wrestling matches where all of these linemen need to fight tooth and nail to make sure that Bortles has time to develop the play and make this throw. The running back and wide receiver also need to convincingly look like they've taken the ball to get the defense to bite on both fakes, and Lewis has to feign his block and sprint downfield, getting himself open, while of course Bortles has to make the throw and Lewis make the catch for all of this to come off without a hitch. This is what football's all about. You have about 150 of these plays called by each team in every game of football, with just as many mind games and strategies going on every single play. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but this feels exactly like League of Legends to me. These are obviously two different competitive events in many ways, but holy moly, in both of these events, you have two teams who are made up of completely different specialized players who all need to be incredibly smart. They need to be led by a great shot caller where everyone shares the responsibility for everything that happens. You know that saying, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link in the NFL. That's exactly the case. I mean, if any one of these linemen here miss their block, Bortles gets tackled for a sack in the backfield for a loss, and the great play call goes nowhere. Where in League of Legends, that's the exact same thing. Any one of your teammates get caught out of position and die stupidly in the late game, whatever play you were trying to make is completely blown up and you probably lose the game. These are two amazingly fun events to watch, and I highly suggest that any of you who like one and who aren't familiar with the other, maybe give the other a shot, because these are just... God, these are two incredible spectacles that show exactly how great sports and esports can be. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video and thought it was interesting. If not, that's perfectly fine. We'll have a new normal League of Legends video tomorrow, but until then, thank you very much for watching. Good luck in solo queue and have a wonderful day.